Peace, everybody. Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch, and today I'm going to talk briefly about UFC 207, in which we have two title fights featured in the featured bout of the evening, not quite the main event. We have Dominic Cruz defending his bantamweight title against Cody Garbrandt. And in the main event, we have Nunes defending the women's bantamweight title against Ronda Rousey. Now, of course, there's a lot of history with that name, and I'll get into more of that once I get into the main event. I'm going to start with the co-main event, which is Cruz versus Garbrandt. This fight has a lot of history too. A lot of stuff I'm really not going to get into, but you can find out the whole beef between Dominic Cruz and the alpha male camp, which Garbrandt is a part of, is all over the internet. We're going to talk about some skills. Now, in Garbrandt, we have a guy who is undefeated, 10-0, 9 wins by knockout, and 1 win by decision. Of course, you do the math. But that indicates that he has very, very heavy hands. Now, in Cruz, the long reigning champ, who has had some ups and downs in his career, most notably with his multiple injuries from like 2012 to 2015. But this is his third fight this year since coming back in January after almost 2 years off and reclaiming his title from TJ Dillashaw, who had notably just left the alpha male camp. He then defended it against Uriah Faber in a rubber match that he won by decision. And now he's taking on Garbrandt. Cruz is nowhere near the knockout puncher that Garbrandt is. But what he does have is probably the best set of feet in the UFC. He is one of those guys that will befuddle the crap out of his opponents. He cuts amazing angles. He is constantly moving, and he likes to pick people apart from the outside. And if he needs to, he can take you down. He only has 1 win by submission, but he is a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, so he can get the job done on the ground if he needs to. He is also an amateur wrestler. Now, these guys have had a lot of words outside of the cage, and I believe that all of that plays into Cruz's hands. You see, you got a guy like Garbrandt who's young, he's hungry, he's ready to go, and all he's been doing is claiming that he's going to knock Cruz out. And if you watch Garbrandt's fights, I mean, that's what he does. He knocks people out. The problem with that is the guys that he's knocking out, one, they're nowhere near the level of Dominic Cruz. But he has beaten some solid guys. But when he gets across that cage and he starts to engage these guys, they oblige him. They square up, they start throwing too, and he's got some very fast hands to go along with that power. Unfortunately, his control leaves a little bit to be desired. He's a little wild at times, but still, for a guy who's practicing, he was an amateur boxer, so he's a little bit crisper than the other guys that he's been fighting. So even though his punches are kind of wide, theirs are very wide, so he gets there first, he gets there harder, and he knocks him out. On the other hand, that type of style plays right into the wheelhouse of someone like Dominic Cruz. Someone who is going to frustrate you, someone who's not going to be there, and someone who's been talking major trash to you for months on end to make you upset and want to crush you. So when that bell rings for round one, and Garbrandt runs across the ring to get to Cruz, and Cruz starts bouncing all over the place like he's in a pinball machine, Garbrandt's going to be like, what the hell? And he also puts everything on every shot he throws. So I'm not sure if once he's missing all of those shots, if he's going to be able to keep his stamina up if he doesn't land on Cruz early, which I don't believe he will. Like I said, this style plays perfectly into the style of Cruz, and I'm believing that he picks Garbrandt apart for 5 rounds and makes it a very, very high talented exhibition. Because Cruz is not the most powerful guy, he's going to frustrate Garbrandt. He likes to mix up his jabs, throws great combinations, but he mixes up his jabs with his leg kicks to really work that lead leg. And that's another thing, like I said, it's going to play, Garbrandt's going to play right into that all night. Unless he can clip him on the way out, this is going to be a one-sided, high-talent exhibition for Dominic Cruz, showing that he is the best 135-pounder in the UFC and maybe all of MMA. I can't think of anyone that has looked better or has looked better off of a long layoff in the sport of MMA. So, Cruz, wide decision, 5 rounds to 0. Let's go into the main event. Now, we have Ronda Rousey, who's returning off a 1 year and a month layoff after losing her title to Holly Holm. That belt then went on a carousel from Holm to Miesha Tate, now to Amanda Nunes. And the big question of this fight, because both of these women are very talented, both of these women deserve to be where they are, but the mental state of Ronda Rousey is the biggest question mark probably ever of a fighter going into a fight of this magnitude. There are serious doubts about how well she's going to be able to handle this, given everything that's happened post loss to Holly Holm. Of course, we know she disappeared from the media. She's done very little interviews. She hasn't even done the press tour for this fight coming up. They're just selling it with old clips and say, hey, Ronda Rousey's back. You should care about this. And for most people, that's enough. Like for me, that's enough. I'm like, I want to see if she can rebound from what happened to her in the Holly Holm fight. But there are several red flags going on that makes you really question whether or not she's ready. Like I said, not talking to the media, refusing to do any of the press. And the biggest one for me was when I watched the UFC countdown show for this event, and the small clips that they did have of her, when she starts talking about the loss to Holly Holm again, you can see her voice starts cracking. She starts to get emotional again, like it's still affecting her after almost a year later. That's a big problem to me and to a lot of people. You see guys lose all the time, and a lot of times they're right back at it. They're eager, chomping at the bit to say, hey, let me fix what I did wrong. I need to avenge this loss. I need to redeem myself in some kind of way. But we did not get that from her. But she is coming back to an immediate title shot against someone who is very, very skilled in Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes has great boxing ability, and like Dominic Cruz, she can produce some outstanding angles. She has a very good right hand. She uses her jab well. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. She's very strong for this weight class. She's one of the bigger fighters in the 135-pound weight class. There's probably only the third person that Rousey has fought that's probably the same size or bigger than her. So the strength factor could play in this one like it did against Holm, where she was unable to take her down because Holly was of similar size and had her move scouted. Now, with Ronda holding the belt ever since the 135-pound division for women was created, everyone's been gunning for her. And Nunes being a part of America Top Team, one of the best gyms in all of mixed martial arts, I'm sure they've got her moves scouted too. And if Ronda is not 100% there mentally, even if she's just 99% there mentally, she loses this fight badly. Maybe as bad as the Holm fight, because Nunes can work angles, and that's something you need to do against someone like Rousey, who charges head first to get that clinch so she can get you down to do what she does best. But she has shown that sometimes it just doesn't matter. Like against Kat Zingano, who was a big 135-pounder. Zingano did charge her, but she was able to flip it, get a reverse arm lock, still get to tap out 14 seconds. That was very impressive. She has shown that she has a little bit of pop, even though, like I said, those Betch Correa and Sarah McMahon, and I believe it was Alexis Davis she also knocked out. Those women are kind of small. Like, if they had a 135-pound weight class, a lot of those women would probably go down to that weight class. That does play a factor. So as far as a pick, right now it's really hard for me to go with Ronda Rousey. Even though, and another thing, Nunes has gotten much, much better since her loss to Kat Zingano a while back. And had she gotten this fight back when they originally started talking about it, then I would pick Ronda easy. But like I said, she has gotten some outstanding training at American Top Team. She is firing on all cylinders, and she feels that her moment is now. And I believe that it is. So I think this one gets pretty ugly. Just like the Tate fight, where you're like, oh my God, she is really nailing her. She's going to have that right hand nailed in. And if when Ronda takes one flush, that's when we find out where she is. Does the lion, even though Amanda Nunes is the lioness, does the lioness come out of Ronda and say, oh, this is not going to happen again. Let me bite down and get it done. Or does she get hit and says, oh God, it's going to happen again, and she folds? I think Nunes is good enough to fold her. So I believe that's what's going to happen. I believe she's going to start taking a few of those right hands off of those angles, and it's going to go downhill very fast from there. So I'm taking Nunes first or second round, and she retains the title. And then we talk about who she fights from there. So that's it, guys. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Who do you think is going to win? I don't think I mentioned it, but also on that card, you've got Neil Magny versus Johnny Hendricks. You got TJ Dillashaw versus John Lineker. Both of those should be very good fights. Junior Dos Santos is fighting Stefan Struve. And that's all the fights I can think of off the top of my head. But this fight is also happening on a Friday, not a Saturday. That threw me for a loop too, so I got to throw that out there. Friday night, not Saturday night. So, catch that. Sorry about that, the camera cut off, but that was it. Hit us up on the social networks. Capital of Combat, all down in the description box. See you guys in the recap. And until then, fight on.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.